Hello, my name is Rose, and today's tutorial is going to cover how to take an open semi-landmark curve in the 3D Slicer app. So the first step is to load your volume into the Slicer window. If you haven't done that before, here's a link in the upper right-hand corner to show you exactly how to do that. So you can see I've already loaded in a dog specimen here, and if you toggle through these slice perspectives down below, you can see our CT scan has been loaded into the app. I also have a volume rendering of what our specimen looks like in the 3D space. So if you've just loaded your volume and you want to be able to visualize that, you can navigate to the volume rendering module, either by using that shortcut or using the drop-down menu. You want to make sure that your volume that you've just loaded is selected, and then you can toggle on and off the visibility by using that eye symbol in the left-hand corner. So if you've just loaded your volume, you'll want to move that shift bar to select the material that you want to visualize. So that could be soft tissue or the skeleton. But once you have that set, we're going to toggle off the volume rendering and navigate to our segment editor module. Again, you can use the shortcut or the drop-down menu. So in order to add a curve, first we need to make a 3D segment of our skull. So you click Add, and you can right-click or double-click on our new segment to create a skull. So we need to set the threshold by clicking the threshold tool and moving that sliding bar. We're going to be selecting for whatever density we want to add into our segment. So you could select for bone density, you could select for soft tissue or open space in the cavities. But here we want to add in the skull material. So I'm zooming in to make sure I'm capturing the bone with my density setting and adjusting as necessary. And then when you're ready, you simply click Apply. And now that we've added the skull material into our segment, we can visualize it in the 3D space by clicking Show in 3D. And for your project, you might need to clean up your segment a little, so you can click the scissors tool and erase inside, and then select material that might be blocking the space where you need to take a curve, or maybe you just want to visualize it better to make an image for publication. Another way you can do this is by using the Islands tool. So if you select Islands and then Keep Largest Island and click Apply, all that background material that isn't physically connected to our largest island, which would be the skull, disappears. So now as you can see, we've made a segment volume of our skull. So I'm going to toggle off that visibility and go back to our volume rendering to choose the place that we want to take a curve. So for this study, we're going to be taking a curve of this temporal arch on the dog specimen. And the most important thing when you're taking a semi-landmark curve is to make sure that the first and last places on your curve are homologous landmarks, that you can repeatably, with precision, find them on every single specimen. So with this curve, we're going to be studying between all of our dog specimens how far that curve projects from the skull. So now I'm going to go to my data module, and I'm going to right-click on my skull segment and choose Export Visible Segments to Models. So now we've created a 3D model of our skull segment. So as you can see in the 3D viewer, that green skull model is now sitting right under our volume rendering, and when we place a point, it'll sit right on top of our model. In the newest version of Slicer, if you want to make that 3D viewer your whole screen, you can click that button in the left-hand corner. And I'm just going to reverse this quickly. If you don't have the newest version of Slicer, you can get to the same result by using that drop-down menu and clicking 3D only. So now that we have our 3D model ready to go, we can start placing our curves on our skull. So we want to navigate to the Markups module. You can use your shortcut or the drop-down menu. And now we can place our first open curve. So on your left-hand menu, I'm going to navigate over to that symbol and click Open Curve. Now we can right-click or double-click on that again and rename it if you'd like. I'm just going to name this Left Arc Curve. And as soon as we do that, in our 3D space, you can see that green dot. Now we're ready to place our point. So I'm going to click the cursor so that I don't accidentally place a landmark, and I want to rotate my model until it's in the most ideal position to place a curve on my skull. So I want to zoom up or rotate the model until it's in the best position. When you're ready to place that curve onto your skull, you can click that symbol at the top of your screen, And then every point that you click on your skull will place a new landmark along that curve that we want to take. And I've just sped this up a little bit. And remember to be as precise as possible with those first and last landmarks. So when you're done taking your curve, you can right click, but if you want to add in another point, you can click that symbol again for our open curve and keep adding to your curve. Another way to stop taking landmarks is to click that cursor symbol. So right click or use the cursor symbol. Now, as you can see, when I zoom in, the line that we've created, the curve, isn't sitting exactly on the bone. It's very close, but it's not exactly on the bone. And our points aren't equidistant. So we're going to fix those things by resampling our curve. But you'll want to first rotate the model and make sure that the points that you've placed from every perspective are sitting right on top of the line that you want the curve on. So make sure to make adjustments as necessary. So we're going to go over to resample and change the settings slightly here. We want to overwrite the current node. You can also create a new curve with your resampled number of landmarks, but right now I'm going to click overwrite. You can choose the number of resampled points that you want to place. For now, I'll just do 15. And then I want to constrain all those points and my curve to the skull model that we created that's sitting right under our volume rendering. So I select skull and then click resample curve. So as you can see, you can change that number of points, and those landmarks that are created are all sitting along our curve right against the bone because we've constrained it to the surface of our model, and they're all equidistant from each other. So in the area I'm pointing to here, you might not need as many points as that area with higher curvature on the right. So 30 might be too many landmarks, but I'm going to go down to 5, the other extreme. And you can see 5 is much too little because it's missing the curvature of that bone. So you really have to adapt to the curvature of whatever you're placing landmarks on. So now I want to resample to a higher number. I'll do 20 again, but I just want to show you that because I put 5 points and that curve was changed, when I resample higher again, the points are going along the curvature of those 5 landmarks I had resampled to. So now it's not correct, and I have to adjust the points back onto the original curve. So if you resample too low accidentally, make sure that you double check that your points are along the curvature that you actually want. So on the left-hand side, there are a few other settings that you can use. You can change linear versus following the curvature in the curve settings. If you want to take a measurement of the curve you just created, for example, you could click the length and it'll tell you exactly how long from your first to last landmark in millimeters that your length is. You can also look at the control points of the X, Y, and Z coordinates for every single point that you've placed along that curve and export those coordinates. Or you can change the display settings for the actual landmarks that you placed. You can make the glyph size change, you can make the text either large or small, and you can change the opacity if you want to make some of your landmarks opaque. So the last thing we're going to do is learn how to save the coordinates of the curve that you just created. So one way to do that is right-click on your curve, select Export As, and then choose the CSV file. Another way you can do this is in the Data module. You can click on your curve, same thing, click Export As, and then Markups Fiducial. Or you can click the Save button, deselect the Medical Reality Bundle and everything inside of it, and then just select your curve that you created, and of course change that file format to Markups Fiducial CSV. Make sure that your directory is set to where you want the file to end up, and then you'll click Save. And that's how to take an open semi-landmark curve in 3D Slicer. So if you have any questions, you can place them in the comments below and we'll get back to you. But I just want to say a big thank you to the 3D Slicer team. They made this awesome software free for everybody to use. And if you want to see more tutorials like this, just subscribe to the Daily Own Lab page. Thank you.